Hello, Houday Nation. You are tuned in to Houday Network. My name's Carson.
I'm Parker.
Today we're going to be talking about draft grades.
Yeah, so we're going to walk through all 10 of the Cincinnati Bengals draft picks and give a little overview and then give our overall draft of each individual pick.
So, just kind of got it here in front of me. Just not having to free ball off the top of my head. So, first pick, which I mean is pretty obvious, but Maurice Mims, first pick for the Bengals. Pick 18, offensive tackle out of Georgia. 6'8", 340 pounds, big boy. He carries his weight well, too. He doesn't have a lot of body fat. Seen a lot of pictures of him. He's pretty lean. Doesn't really have a lot of fat on him, which is good. No, I mean, you don't see that type of body type a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's very athletic. He's not a lot of fat on his body. He's just very built. I mean, the only problems that are going to arise from this pick is a lack of experience.
Yeah.
I mean, he started 8 games in college, which I know gets said all the time. But, I mean, that's a big deal. But I also don't think you're going to find somebody 6'8", 340 with that athletic frame that has started a ton higher than where he got drafted.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of coaches like to look at the film, which you can't really look at it too much with him. I mean, you can look at what's there. The games he did play, the games he did start. I mean, it looked really good. It's just there's not a lot to go off of. So that's the real problem everybody's having. But I mean, he was picked in the first round, pick 18, and that's with the lack of film. So obviously there's a lot there that I like. So I think honestly it's a really good pick. I think it'll fit in well. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest. What should I say here? Like the biggest needs that need filled for the Bengals.
Because also, I mean, he's going to sit under Orlando Brown and Trent Brown for a year. He's not going to come in
most likely,
be an instant impact.
The only way, if he beats Trent Brown out,
which I highly doubt.
Which I don't think happens. But then you got Trent Brown. He's also very injury prone. Which Mims could be too. We don't know.
He could step in, hopefully, if that happens, because the offensive line depth at any point for the Bengals is not great.
And they're not going to move him to guard. I mean,
no,
that's not
I
don't
think he has the guard
frame. He's too big for a guard anyways.
Yeah. I mean, Burrow tends to not drop back in the pocket very far anyway, which leads to a lot of deflected passes, so you really don't want a 6'8" guard up the middle. So I would say he's most likely going to be a sub right tackle this year. He's not going to play a ton, but I think he'll learn under Trent Brown for a year and be a starter next year and hopefully for however many years to come.
Which I think a lot of people have a problem with that because they want an instant impact. They want, I want this guy, first round pick, to be playing this year. It's like, okay, but let's think about what's best for the team here. I mean, if we have a solid O-line this year by getting a veteran like Trent Brown, I mean, if you get a rookie that's got all this potential, I mean, people were talking about he's one of the highest upside players that there was, I mean, in the draft, able to pick. So I think if he sits behind someone with that much experience than Trent Brown, he's got Orlando Brown. I mean, he's got a lot of older guys to learn off of and to motivate him. I think he's going to make a big impact come next year.
Yeah.
And also blocking for Joe Burrow, I mean, you got to have some people to block for Joe Burrow. I mean, he's been hurt about every year. I mean, with the type of player he is, you want him on the field.
Yeah. So. And I mean, you drafted other instant impact players in this draft.
Sure, exactly.
So, I like this pick. I mean, it's not an all-star pick. It's not an A-plus pick.
Not a flashy pick.
But I would give it like B+, A- probably.
Yeah, when I was watching the draft, I was almost thinking they'd go, Fatanu out of Washington just because he's so diverse. And then after I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? We could use more of a guard. And, I mean, the talent that's there, the upside that's available, I think he just has so much upside. I think it was a really good pick. Yeah, I would say giving it about an A- pick. I mean, I know it wasn't flashy, not an instant impact. We're going to have to wait a year. But I think it's really going to pay off. I think it's going to be a really good pick. So, yeah, I would say A- for that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's Maurice Mims right there. Second round, pick 49, then went Chris Jenkins out of Michigan.
This is
a tackle.
My favorite pick for the Bengals in the whole draft. I think you talk about instant impact. You say you're not getting that with Mims. I think you're getting that with Chris Jenkins. I think there was an early second-round defensive tackle run with Tavondre Sweat going earlier than he was supposed to and a couple other guys going really high. I think with DJ Reader leaving, and you brought in Sheldon Rankins, but he's not going to just fill that spot. I think it was good to just go get the best, most needed position available, and I really like Chris Jenkins. I think he's a great player, and I think he'll fill that well.
Yeah, and with DJ Reader leaving, him being a nose tackle, that's why I was hoping Devondre Sweat plug up the middle, just get a big body. He's not going to play every down, but he'd be a really effective player. He wasn't there, and honestly, I don't think it's really any worse to get Chris Jenkins because I think honestly he'll be maybe a more effective player because he's going to be able to play more downs. He's probably a better player overall. He's not as big, but he's not going to play that nose tackle role. But do we really need that? Because Sheldon Rankins he's able to play that type of role. So he can switch off of. And the pick in the third round that we're going to talk about, he's a nose tackle. So they did get that. They got a little bit more size there. And so, yeah, I think Chris Jenkins definitely is probably the best player available that they needed. And also, him being on Michigan's D-line, I mean, Michigan had one of the best defensive lines in college football. So you get the best player from the best defensive line. I mean, that must mean something.
I mean the defensive coaching over there, you can't say
exactly
that much about it. It's so good.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bengals, I mean, you look at all these picks. I mean, you got Jermaine Burton. You've got, I mean, really just a lot of these picks where they're picking from solidified schools. They're not picking from these small schools. I mean, you got Iowa, Texas A&M. I mean, none of these schools are real, this is a random school. Let's just throw a dart. This guy was effective, but he didn't play against good competition. He wasn't with these high-level coaches. I mean, they're targeting glorified programs and a lot of programs where they know they have good coaching, where they're going to be more of NFL ready, I guess, because more NFL game style, more NFL competition.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a good pick. He's played against, the best O-lineman in college football. I mean, he's on one of the best defensive lines in college football, had really good coaching. Really solid pick. I like the pick a lot. I'd say for the position they were at and where they picked, I would say, me personally, I'd probably give it about a B+, A- pick. I'd probably similar to Mims in that position. I would say around A- again. I would probably say for Chris Jenkins, me personally.
Yeah, like I said, this is my favorite pick in the whole draft. I don't think it's going to take much for him to eventually start peeling away at Sheldon Rankin's reps. I don't know where BJ Hill is going to go. BJ
Hill, that's the thing. BJ Hill may be behind Sheldon Rankins on the depth chart.
Yeah, but the thing with him is, he's been on the team for a while. He understands the defense.
He's a good leader.
Yeah,
but they don't necessarily always need
locker
leaders.
Room guy.
Yeah, they don't always need locker room guys, leaders on the field.
Yeah,
same thing with Mike Hilton. We don't know how he's going to be this year. There's a chance he may come off the field. Mike Hilton may. Even more likely, Von Bell. He's a locker room guy.
Locker room guys.
He may come off the field, but they want those type of guys on the team.
Yeah, and I think Chris Jenkins is just going to plug in. He's going to start stealing reps from the other D tackles. This for me is an A+. I think it was the only A+ pick in the draft. Although I overall like the draft, but this really was my spot on pick out of the draft.
And you know what? Yeah, I'd probably say, I wouldn't say I'd say probably an A. I'd go A just because of the fact that I think he's going to be more of an instant impact player than what Marius Mims would be. Only reason I'm not saying A+ is because their main need was nose tackle. But the only thing with that was there was really nobody else to pick. So it's not on the Bengals there that for me it's not an A+. It's just the way the draft fell. So for the way the draft fell, I would say A+. But for an overall pick, I'd probably go A just because of his instant impact, the type of player he is, where he comes from. But overall, yeah, I'm thinking it's another solid pick for the Bengals. Anything else you got on him?
No, I think I've said enough.
All right. And then next, we've got our next pick, wide receiver, round 3, pick 80, Jermaine Burton. When they picked here, I was actually very surprised. I didn't see this coming. We were actually watching the draft.
I think we were both on the Troy Franklin train.
Thinking they were going to go Troy Franklin just because of what we heard about Troy Franklin. Shout out Locked On Bengals podcast. Shout out another podcast here. I was watching them. He was really high on Troy Franklin because of how he would fit to the scheme. I was too, especially because if we lost T. Higgins, he was a similar type of player to T. Higgins. I just thought it was the obvious pick there. That's what they were going to go. But no, they surprised everybody. They went Jermaine Burton, which honestly, the more I've thought about it, I do not think it's a bad pick at all. Honestly, it may have been smarter than Troy Franklin. From now, we're hearing about Troy Franklin's lack for the love of football, which may not be true. But also just because
I don't know. how well Troy Franklin's game correlates to the NFL level. I mean, he was great in college, put up great stats, but I'm just thinking in that with that frame.
True.
I mean, some of those guys you see, they come out and they are instant impact players.
Yeah, like Devontae Smith.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a big guy, but also Devontae Smith was a Heisman, and he was, I believe, the 10th.
Yeah, and just it all depends on the offense too, the way the offense is run and what kind of routes you have them running.
Yeah. So I mean, I was fine with Burton here. I think he's maybe more NFL ready. I don't know if his potential was higher because again, Franklin was very good in college.
Yeah, but the other thing I was kind of thinking about and looking at, so most likely, I would assume Burton's going to be playing the slot most of the time. That's just where it gets tricky because now Jamar Chase's reps went up a lot in the slot last year. You got T. Higgins on the outside, obviously. But now it kind of comes to the thing where it's like, is Yoshi Vosh, is he going to make an impact and he's going to get some reps on the outside? Trenton Irwin, Charlie Jones going to be playing in the slot at all? It just kind of depends on how the whole thing kind of works out.
I mean, the wide receiver room is very deep.
Yeah, so it's gotten a lot better.
Depends. And I mean, Troy Franklin is not plugging into the slot as well as Jermaine Burton is, I don't think. I mean, I don't know how well Burton fits into the slot, but I think just the way he plays and his frame, he's a lot better built for the slot than someone like Troy Franklin.
And the thing is, too, it's like, okay, well, you got Jamar on the outside, you got T. I mean, you've got Irwin, Irwin can kind of play wherever. And then Charlie Jones, more of a slot guy. But, I mean, it's like when you look at the starters, they're not going to want Jamar in the slot. They want Jamar on the outside to make the more explosive plays. They obviously are going to have T on the outside. You look at that third guy, who's going to be there? Who's going to be in the slot?
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, if you take Burton out of the equation, like if you didn't draft Burton, I think Yoshi last year proved himself as the clear plug-and-play wide receiver 3 with Boyd gone. But you can't plug him into the slot. I think he's a red zone outside guy, and his frame, he's not built for the slot. So I think I mean, you were going to have to put an Irwin or a Charlie Jones there,
which is okay, but it's like Charlie Jones, he was hurt. He wasn't crazy productive. I mean, there were some drop passes there. Not that it was all of them were his fault, but he didn't get in a lot. He wasn't super. I mean, he wasn't doing a lot. I mean, Trent Irwin's a solid player. I mean, he's a safe person to have out there, knows what he's doing.
Again, locker room guy.
Yeah, he can run good routes, make good catches, but he's not explosive, really.
Yeah, he's not Jermaine Burton.
No, that's the thing. And Tyler Boyd, when you look at Tyler Boyd, what they had there, Tyler Boyd was not explosive.
Yeah.
He wasn't that fast.
And he just understood the game.
Yeah, and he didn't drop the ball. He was a safe person. He was like a safety blanket, which is good. That's good to have. But the Bengals, they want to go out there. They want to run a gun. They want to throw the ball down the field. They want to really intimidate the defense. So what's going to intimidate the defense that you didn't have last year?
Having
an athletic player.
3 big deep ball threats on the
exactly.
field.
And having an athletic player out of the slot, which they did not have with Tyler Boyd. So now it's like he's able to stretch the field. So now it's like, okay, you've got 3 guys. I mean, able to stretch. You got more than that, honestly. I mean, if you look at who else is going to be playing, who can stretch the field, I mean, all the other 3 guys that we were mentioning, they can also stretch the field. So it's like now it's like when you got deep threats, Joe Burrow can make any throw imaginable. So it's like I think we're in a really good spot with that pick. It wasn't like the one I was like, oh, boom, let's go here. But I would still say overall it's a pretty good pick. I think it'll fit well. Obviously, there was the things off the field people were talking about, but I mean, take that how you want it. It's really just one incident.
And I mean, with the NFL, I think the discipline goes up maybe in the NFL. And also, I mean, he was probably, 20, 21 at the time of that. So hopefully he has matured past that and grown out of that. And I think he could just be very set and not super out there.
Yeah.
So I think if I was to give a grade for this pick, I think I would go B. I mean, I like the pick looking back on it, but I just think that there were maybe better players available, but as a whole, I liked this pick.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the best players available for the Bengals to impact the team, he was probably one of their best options. It's just hard with receivers because you don't know. You just don't know. Like, I mean, when John Ross got drafted, everybody's like, oh, this dude can do everything. I mean, he's instant impact, which there was an injury there. But, I mean, it's just hard with receivers to know how their routes, everything's going to correlate to the NFL level, which I think him playing out of slot might be a little bit safer of a pick. So I would say probably B on that just because of him being a wide receiver and kind of being a surprise pick to everybody. But I think he'll translate well. I really do. I don't know if he'll be the solidified starter. He may not win over some of the other guys, but I think he will, and I think he'll pan out, and he'll be more of a plug-and-play guy, kind of like how Chris Jenkins was in our offense. But then we also got another round 3 pick, pick 97, McKinley Jackson, big boy out of Texas A&M.
This, I think, and we'll probably differ on this opinion, this I think was the first pick that I did not agree with very much. I mean, I think late 3rd round, they still had a ton of potential on the table. I mean, it's so hard for me to see them pass up on Ja'Tavion Sanders. I mean, he got taken very quickly after this. And I think, in general, there were still better guys. Nothing against McKinley Jackson. It's just you already have Chris Jenkins. I mean, if they had passed on Chris Jenkins and taken a tight end in the 2nd round, which I don't know who they would have taken, but taken some other position in the 2nd round, I think this is a solid pick. Again, he can play nose tackle, but it's tough for me with 2 defensive tackles in the first 4 picks.
But also, here's the thing. What was the Bengals' their main weakness the past however many years? The trenches. I mean, how many times do you see a defensive tackle getting to the quarterback or even stopping the run? I mean, the Bengals, I don't know exactly what it was, but I know they were towards the end of the league in rushing yards allowed. I mean, they were people were running all over them. I mean, I was at the Texans game. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was Devin Singletary just running over the entire Bengals defense. And it's like, yeah, he's a good running back, but he's not someone you think of like, he's a Saquon Barkley type player. He's going to be taking the ball. He's going to be what kills us. I mean, you're going to think C.J. Stroud is going to be what kills you. But no, it was Devin Singletary. I mean, they could not stop the run. McKinley Jackson, that's what he's going to be there for, is he's going to be able to stop the run. Is he going to start? No, probably not. Is he going to play a lot of the game? Maybe not. But is he going to be able to make an instant impact in a specific niche way? Yes, because he's going to be that nose tackle role that they don't have. Yeah, just because of his size and his ability to just stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll probably get like Zach Carter type minutes where he doesn't come in a whole lot, but a couple plays every drive he gets in there when you sub out the D tackles.
And you got to think too is now there's situations where he's going to be useful. I mean, if you're talking like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Goal line situations. I mean, just having a big guy like that to be able to plug up the middle and really be able to stop the run. Because, I mean, sometimes you're going to know they're running, they're QB sneaking, they're doing something like that. I don't think with the mind of Lou Anarumo, I think he's going to know how to use McKinley Jackson. I think it's going to be another weapon because, I mean, yes, he may not be the best talent that was there. But I think for the position that he plays and the type of player he is, being a big defensive tackle that can play nose tackle, I think it was a good pick. Maybe it was a little bit of a reach for what they could have gotten. But, yeah, personally, I do like the pick and the way that they're going to be able to utilize him. I don't know what you think for your grade on that one.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, you described it pretty well. And, yeah, they need run stopping. So I'm not going to go super low on this pick. But he could have been there in the 4th round.
That's the thing.
I think
he could have been there later.
Maybe instead of getting McKinley Jackson in the 3rd and Eric All in the 4th, you end up with Ja'Tavion Sanders in the 3rd and McKinley Jackson in the 4th. I mean, that sounds a lot better to me.
I agree.
But he could have got taken. You never know how the draft is going to work out. So I think I'm going to go flat C.
Yeah, I think on this pick, I'm gonna stay in the B's. I'm gonna go B minus. The reason I'm saying the B's is just because like what I said, just him being the nose tackle. And I mean, the thing is, after McKinley Jackson, there's nothing for nose tackle. So it's like, it's either you get him or you miss out on that position overall, or you get someone that's gonna play and maybe rotate but not play very often. And it's like for the talent they got, the position he plays, I think it was a good pick. It just like he said, a little bit of a reach. They may have been able to end up with Jatavion Sanders and him. So I would go B minus on that pick. Okay, so the next player we got here is tight end Eric All out of Iowa, tight end University right there. He's picked 115. Why do I feel like I said that wrong? 115, yeah. Round 4. What do you think about this pick?
I think has the potential to be the biggest instant impact. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we're talking about
how over other than Amarius Mims, or are you saying over Amarius Mims?
I mean, if
you're talking instant impact, instant impact, yeah, instant impact. I agree.
I mean, Mims is going to be a rotation piece if he doesn't play.
Impact, yeah.
Jenkins is going to be a rotation piece. Yeah. Burton's going to be the
off of instant impact. Yes, I do agree with that.
You have Gesicki, who I think is aging and wasn't great.
He's a good receiver.
New England,
blocking wise, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Tanner Hudson played solid last year, but that's
good.
Tanner Hudson is not
He's not like a super scary threat for another team.
Yeah,
he's a reliable player who's going to be able to make catches, make plays, but he's not what other teams deem a threat.
Yeah. So I mean, they're obviously in the middle of rookie minicamp camp right now, and training camp is starting.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if he can prove it, he could be that tight end 2. I doubt tight end 1. But with the way the Bengals play, I mean, I think they've already said Drew Sample is going to be coming out of the backfield way more this year, which you saw a little bit last year. But I just think, I mean, he could be the tight end 2 very easily. Probably not the tight end 1, but I think he's going to get a lot of reps.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people wanted Stover at this pick, which one I think is just we're in Ohio, and because I like Cade Stover. I think he's a great tight end, but it's so hard to say no to Iowa starting tight end. I mean, you look back in the history of the draft, and you have Kittle, you have Hawkinson, you have Sam Laporta. I mean, Sam Laporta last year going into the draft, everybody was like, well, he's going to be tight end 5.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was like, oh, yeah, he's decent. He's just a receiver.
Earlier than he was supposed to be. And he had a year. I mean, I would say already top 5, maybe top 3 tight end.
I mean, he lit it up. I mean, for the Lions. I mean, the Lions did really well last year. Jared Goff, I mean, he had a lot more options. And honestly, Laporta was probably his clear-cut second option. I mean, Laporta was
outside of Sun God.
I mean, obviously Amon-Ra, he's going to be their first option. But other than him, I think Laporta was the best person to go to. And these Iowa tight ends, they're such good receivers. And I mean, George Kittle, a lot of people think of him as more of a blocking tight end. I mean, he's an amazing receiver. I mean, the way he moves, I mean, he just does it so well. And like I said too, a lot of these Iowa tight ends, they're capable of blocking. They're just complete players with the coaching they have at Iowa. So. And the thing, too, with Eric All was, I mean, he didn't play a ton of games. I mean, he was hurt a lot. But then again, look who they picked in the first round, Amarius Mims. So it's like they picked a couple players on here that were more of like, they're going to be really high upside, which I'm excited about because...
I mean, you talk about that. The next pick might be the best example of that.
True.
I mean,
yeah.
So I think quite a few of these picks were very high upside picks. That were, I mean, it was a very risky draft to me. I mean, you talk about Mims and Burton and Eric All and Josh Newton. I mean, that is picks that could all turn out and be very strong picks, but could also just completely fall off.
Yeah, which is a little scary, but it's like, I think with the position the Bengals are at, being as good of a team they are, you can take risks like that. Like, it's not like we're the New England Patriots.
Yeah. Where you need every pick to...
You need everything.
Boom, 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 to turn out.
Yeah, which I'm sure there's no Patriots fans watching this, so I think we'll be good to say that. But, the Bengals, I mean, they're such a good team. It's like, why not take those risks? That can pan out to be so much better. Because, like, Eric All, honestly, I think, with the way he played, watching him play, the type of player he is, I don't think it's crazy if he would be the tight end 1. If he gets healthy, He has a good camp. He plays well. I don't think the number one spot is off the table.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Mike Gesicki there. Mike Gesicki's a great player. Seems awesome. I'm glad we got him. But I don't think Mike Gesicki is the type of player that it's like, okay, there's nobody else that can have this position. He's not a Travis Kelce where he's the set player and nobody else can beat him out for that spot. I mean, there's a chance Eric Hall can beat him out for that spot.
And I mean, also, you have to look towards the future. And it's like...
Exactly. You got a young
guy. The
guy.
Bengals tight end history, not... In recent years, not great.
Yeah.
I mean, you had C.J. Uzomah, who was with the team for quite a few years, was pretty solid.
Good, solid.
And he left, and you signed a one-year deal to Hayden Hurst.
Another
who was
solid
very
player.
solid, but then left after 1 year.
Yeah.
Then you signed Irv Smith Jr.,
not solid.
to a 1-year deal, who was not solid.
Yeah.
And then this year you signed Gesicki to a 1-year deal.
Probably
you look
another
at all those
solid
guys
player.
who left after that 1 year, and I'm thinking, so maybe all is the tight end 2 this year plays behind Gesicki, and then Gesicki leaves, and you don't have to worry about going and getting that veteran
that's the thing.
tight end.
Yeah,
on that
it's a
deal.
lot of okay. Let's resolve the problem for 1 year. Let's get it figured out for this year, and then next year we'll do the same thing. Now you get a younger guy who, Gesicki may play over him. He may be the tight end 3. I don't know. But if he's able to be the tight end 2 to win out that spot and Gesicki play over him to learn to be on the team, learn the offense, I think it's a really good pick for the future because then they don't have to worry about going out, getting these one-and-dones who are solid. He may turn out to be, boom, now he's a threat. I mean, that's just more adding on to the weapons Joe Burrow has.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great pick, great option. Because same with Amarius Mims in the first round. They've been doing a lot of just short answer stuff for offensive line. Well, now you've got somebody who can be the long-term answer.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I mean, with Eric Hall being a long-term answer, I'm thinking Amarius Mims, Jermaine Burton, the same thing. And then, Chris Jenkins, depending on what happens with the defensive line. I think there was a lot of good picks in here. I like Eric Hall. I like what he's going to be able to do. I think from him being from Iowa helps it out a lot.
Yeah.
Just where he comes from. I know a lot of people, wanted Cade Stover. I personally like Cade Stover. I mean, heck, one of my friends, that's his cousin. We're like, hey, let's get your cousin up here at Cincinnati. But no, I think obviously the Bengals, I mean, they know more than what we do when they're watching this film and they're taking things into account. I think they probably made that pick for a reason. It's something that they needed. Honestly, I really like this pick. I'm going to give it an A, personally, for Eric Hall.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really good pick. I mean, at this point in the draft, looking at what you have, I mean, like he was saying, you may have been able to get Jatavion Sanders and then McKinley Jackson. But by drafting McKinley Jackson, honestly, I'm giving this an A pick, personally. Yeah. I really like this pick and the need for it. It wasn't just like a rotational pick like, honestly, the rest of the picks kind of are. I think this is like a real legit need for even a starter. That you need and you need to fill. But heck, he may not be the starter. He may be the tight end 2, tight end 3. But if he's able to be the tight end 2, I think that itself is valuable enough. Because the Bengals rotate tight ends every once in a while. They have
they had all sorts of tight ends.
You don't want Drew Sample to be your receiver. You want him to be more of a blocker.
Yeah.
Gesicki, you want to be more of a receiver.
Yes.
Same with Tanner. You want him to be 2. But Eric Hall, I mean, he's going to be more of a receiver too, but he might be able to do it all, and that's great. I think he's a complete tight end. He's going to be looking for the future.
Yeah.
And that's why I give it an A. Yeah. Personally.
I mean, I think pretty much all the same applies. I would probably go A-. I mean, I still think great pick. Just he's going to plug in very well. So I don't know much else to say. Next pick. Josh Newton.
You talk about him. You know a little bit more about him than I do. You're a little higher on him.
I like Josh Newton.
Yeah.
And so Josh Newton was the number 1 cornerback on the TCU team that made the national championship. And he got very high praise after that. I mean, he was being talked about as first round pick. He was one of the biggest names in the draft. And then going into last year, he was not great. I mean, I think this is a pure potential pick. I think he could very well come in, be a special teams guy, and then flutter away after a couple years. But I think he is going to be one of the few late round picks for the Bengals specifically, and maybe in the whole league, that has that potential to sprout. Because if you've shown what you can do in college, and then TCU was on such a high that year.
They were,
I mean, you had Duggan and Quentin Johnston, and they were a very good team who beat Michigan in the playoffs and then suffered that loss to Georgia. But I mean, you're on such a high. The coaching was so good, but then it's like Duggan leaves and Johnston leaves. The whole team kind of starts falling apart, and then you go into last year, and the team is just not it. And so there's no. I mean, it's just. I mean, it's not as much there mentally. It's not. I mean, the winning mentality had just left, and so I think if the Bengals can come in and Lou can kind of try to plug him back into that, I personally really liked this pick.
Yeah.
But.
And, you know, that's the only thing that scares me a little bit is, you know, how much success TCU had. Was he kind of just riding that? Was he just, I mean, everybody was playing really well. And you look at Quentin Johnson, who translated, he may be better this year, but last year was not the greatest for where he was picked. Is Josh Newton going to be the same way? You know, it's like based on, they had a lot of success. He can win. Their team can win. Then you look at last year, it's like it wasn't really the same case. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, you know, you look at film, you look at the highlights. He's a highlight guy. He's got some good highlights. You know, you could see he can do some things, but it's just the only problem I have with it, is that. And then also, like, the corner room, I mean, the secondary in general, I mean, they just have so much now. It's like you sign all these safeties, and then by cornerback, you're getting, I mean, we were drafting cornerback last year out of Michigan, DJ Turner. He's going to just continue to get more and more reps. You know, Uzier is gone. But, you know, you still got Mike Hilton there. You've got Cam Taylor-Britt. You've got a lot of younger guys who I think are going to continue to be well. And I think he can fit in with that group. I don't think it was a bad pick. I think it's still a position we could use. I just don't think it was as much of a glaring need as what some of these other picks were, personally. And that's kind of why I personally would I give this pick, honestly. Just from my opinion, just based on kind of what everything is around, I'd probably go C+. I think it wasn't a bad pick. I'm personally not as high on him as what you are. And I think their corners room already is going to be good enough. But I think he's a decent player who can plug in. I think Lula finds a way to make him have an impact. So I think C+. I think it's still a good pick, just not the greatest.
Yeah, I think this to me feels like the opposite of the McKinley Jackson pick, where you were fairly high on it and I wasn't very high on it. This pick I'm pretty high on. You're not so high on it. But again, it's 5th round and below. I think you're purely drafting for potential. Yeah. And so, I mean, this was probably one of the highest potential picks there was in the entire draft. I personally would go like a B+ to an A-. About the same grade I would give the Eric All pick. But again, I mean, you're going to have those differences.
True, yeah. And we'll see. And hopefully he makes a really big impact this year and he gets on the field a lot. But, you know, I mean, like I said, C+, I think that's still, you know, a pretty good grade. Like, that's more of like that's not like a bad grade or anything like this one, because I still think it was a good pick. And, you know, I think he can have some impact in special teams. And, you know, if he gets on the field, hopefully he can make an impact. But, yeah, so that's it for Josh Newton. Now we're on to Terry McLaughlin out of Arizona, another tight end pick. Me personally, so the thing is, with tight end, they kind of have a lot at tight end. Not like as in like a bunch of guys who are like going to be the tight end one, but they have a lot of solid players. So do I think they needed Tanner McLaughlin? No, honestly. But I do really like Tanner McLaughlin as a player. And honestly, I think this would be like an A pick if Eric All was not selected and this was the tight end they went. Okay. I mean, Tanner McLaughlin, I mean, he's just fun to watch. I mean, he's a great player, you know, for Canada. So, you know, he may not know everything. I mean, he may still have a lot to learn. But I think, honestly, it was a really good pick. I like Tanner McLaughlin. The only thing, that I'm having a problem with was the fact that he's a tight end, and we already kind of have that. So for that reason, I don't like the pick, but I do like the pick as the player that he is. I do like Tanner McLaughlin, and a lot of the mock drafts I was doing, I was selecting him. I like him a lot, just for the need. That's the reason. I think it was a good pick for the player, but for the need, I don't think it was the greatest pick.
Yeah. I honestly didn't know he was from Canada.
Really?
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's from Canada, I believe. So if I got that wrong, that's my bad. But I do believe he is from Canada. Then he went to Arizona. Arizona was kind of his first like big school where he's kind of getting that coaching. So that's why I think he has a lot of potential. He's a great player. He's got a lot of potential to develop. So I think it was an amazing pick for the player, for the fact that they got him at pick 194 in the 6th round. I mean, I think it was a home run, but for the need, they just don't need tight end as much with getting Eric Hall. I think it's probably one of those picks where they saw him there still, and they're kind of thinking, okay, these guys are great players, got a lot of potential. Let's go ahead and get him. Yeah. But, yeah, the need, I don't think really personally was there that much. That's my opinion.
And I just want to preface the 6th and 7th round picks by saying I had heard of Tanner McLaughlin before, but Cedric Johnson, Dejon Anthony, and Matt Lee, I did not know who they were before the draft rolled around. And, I mean, Tanner McLaughlin's name I heard through around a little bit because I was constantly researching tight ends because I knew that was going to be the focal point.
Yeah.
But, so, with these last 4 picks, I'm just going to focus on where they plug in their, like, how they fit the rotation.
Wise.
Yeah. And, I mean, from what I saw about McLaughlin, he seemed like Eric All was your explosive, like, let's go get him tight end. Tanner McLaughlin seems more like Tanner Hudson, who we already talked about, where he's just going to be there. He's not going to get a ton of yards, but he's your tight end that's there in case you need him. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to bust. Yeah. He's just going to be there, and he's not going to
Tanner McLaughlin, honestly, from what I looked at, I mean, he is like a take the risk type of player when he's running after catch. He's a pretty decent run after catch tight end. I mean, there's a couple guys that are hurdling people. He goes out. He's a really, honestly, I think of is he's really like a Hayden Hurst. That's a guy I can compare him to, in my personal opinion, from what I've seen. And I mean, I love watching Hayden Hurst play. I mean, yeah, was he the amazing threat tight end that the Bengals needed? No, but he was fun to watch. I mean, he went out there, he played hard. He gave it all he could to get all the extra yards he could. I think Tanner McLaughlin's going to play like that. And I think he's going to be a safe player to put on the field. So personally, with this pick, I really want to give this like an A just because of Tanner McLaughlin and how much I like the player. But for the need, honestly, I'll just go flat out C because I think he's a great player. I think it's awesome that we got him. Just him being a tight end, I just don't think we needed it that much at that stage or really at any stage after picking Eric All.
Yeah, because I mean, where is he going to fit? You have Gesicki, who's going to be tight end 1.
So, yeah,
I think All is going to be tight end 2.
Probably 2.
You have Drew Sample, who I think, again, is going to be coming more out of the backfield. Yeah. But he's still
And then Tanner Hudson.
Tanner Hudson. I mean, I would think Tanner Hudson's going to be your tight end 3. Drew Sample's probably going to be your tight end 4.
Maybe,
so he fits right into your tight end 5. But I don't know how much. I mean, I guess Mitch Wilcox was about the tight end 4 last year, and he still touched.
He still got in the game.
A decent amount.
So it's like Tanner McLaughlin. And I think, too, there's so many things, though. This is one thing with tight ends that you can do because you don't need your tight end to be receiving all the time. I mean, you can be more of a blocker, and also they can run the ball. I mean, one of the games I was at, they ran a tight end sweep in the end zone. And I was like, what the heck are they doing? I forget who took the ball. I think it was Wilcox.
It was, I was at that game.
We were both at that game, yeah. That must have been the game we went to together. I forget who took the ball, but somebody took the ball in the red zone.
Sample or Wilcox. I don't think it was one of the...
In the red zone, takes the ball, tight end sweep. I'm like, what the heck are they doing? It did not work.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there is different creative plays you can do. And sometimes they're going to work, sometimes they're not, with him being a tight end. So I think a C pick. I don't think it was a bad pick at all. It's just, for the position, don't really think they needed it. But it's one of those positions where you can still find a need for it. So I don't think it was horrible at all by any means.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I would go C plus. I mean, I think I gave McKinley Jackson a C, and I think that was my least favorite pick in the draft. So I'll probably give him C plus just because he's going to be the 4 or 5, and I don't know how much you're going to use the 4 or 5.
Yeah. And then, all right, so with that, we got Cedric Johnson, defensive end out of Ole Miss. He was pick 214, round 6. With Cedric Johnson, what I've seen on him, explosive player, he's athletic. He's going to be I think he's going to be a good rotational player because the defensive end position, You're rotating a lot. Those dudes get tired because they're working.
Yeah.
They're on. Every snap. It's
Yeah, and I mean
you're going.
Hendrickson is constantly
Hendrickson's always on the field.
and on and off.
Yeah, and then when he subs off, it's like, okay, we've got him, but then we've got somebody else. And Hendrickson, honestly, he plays a lot of reps, and it's like, does he need to play all those reps when he's getting tired, or can we get some more guys who can come in and play at a high level and get him some rest, or get Hubbard some rest? I think this was a really good pick. I like this pick. I think he's going to be an explosive player. He's going to be able to make come in and maybe make a big play every once in a while. I like Cedric Johnson. From what I've researched about him. I don't know what you think about the pick.
I mean, to me, I'm looking at the roster right now, and it's a 6th round pick, so I'm not going to grade it too low because you're just drafting for potential. But I mean, the way it's going to set up is you're going to have Hendrickson is going to say, I think he's the right end.
Honestly,
lines up against left tackle.
Regardless,
but so he's going to be your defensive end 1. Hubbard is going to be your 2. Miles Murphy's going to be your 3. I hope
that's true. He's got a lot of.
I hope his snap count goes up quite a bit this year.
Yeah.
I think Cam Sample was really your 4, and Joseph Osai was your 5.
That's the other thing, though. You really, when you're thinking about it, you have a lot at defensive end. You have a lot of good players.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Gunther.
You've got, so it's like you have a lot of players who are able to make an impact. So it's like kind of at this point you're just drafting just positions you could use, and I think he's a good player for where he was picked at. And like I said, he seems like he's pretty athletic and explosive player, which I think that's really good to have, just to get some athleticism, get some size. So I think it was a good pick. It's kind of like the Tanner McLaughlin thing where they didn't need that position like a ton, but it's like, then again, what else are you going to draft at that point? What else do you really need? And I think going defensive end is good because they're rotating a lot. So I would say it's around the same as Tanner McLaughlin. I'd say around a C pick. I think it was a good pick, but I don't think it's anything like crazy and anything we absolutely had that dire need of.
Yeah. Again, I think had there been players there was other positions on the field that could have been improved more. Interior offensive line was not addressed until late 7th round in the draft.
Yeah.
But again,
it's true.
I don't know many players in the 6th and 7th round, so who knows what interior offensive line was there.
That's the only other thing too. It's like, we got Matt Lee in the 7th round, but he's a center, and Cordell Volson, is he even going to be able to in the future be like solidified starter? We want him starting. I don't know. So honestly, I would have maybe rather liked them going interior offensive line there. And then just also getting Matt Lee. I really like Matt Lee. I'll go into that later. But I think it was a good pick. That's why I would say C, just for the position, it being a defensive end, even though they didn't really need it. Just the fact that they rotate a lot. So I would say C.
Yeah, I would say, I think I gave Tanner McLaughlin a C+. I would say C+. It's basically the same thing. It's a good player. I think he had 6.5 sacks last year. So
maybe, I don't know the exact
it's a solid player. I had it. 40 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 5.5 TFLs.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like he's able to make some explosive plays, and you want that because it's like if he can do that, that can energize the whole defense.
Yeah. But also, not to cut you off, but there's some players, like if you go a linebacker or a safety here,
which you
can know that guy will play special teams, or he will have a role on the
defensive
team.
end. It's like
when it's a defensive end, you don't know that he's going to have a role on the team. And I guess on trying to block kicks and stuff like that. But
that's a good thing
really
with him being an athletic player. I don't know exactly his length. I don't know. I thought I heard he had long arms, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So don't quote me on that. But that could be an option too. So I don't think it was a bad pick by any means.
I agree.
Position. I would say C.
Yeah.
All right, so the next pick, Dejon Anthony, out of Ole Miss again. So this pick, personally, I didn't love. I like the fact that he's out of Ole Miss, keeping that Ole Miss connection with those two. So those two will be familiar with each other, at least, coming on the team. With him being a DB, which I'm assuming is going to be, meaning he's a safety. it's like our safety room is already so good. I mean, we've got Battle. We just signed Devon Bell. We got Geno Stone. We have Dax Hill moving to cornerback, so he won't be in the safety room. But it's like Tyson Anderson. Is he a safety? Tyson Anderson?
Yeah, but there's been a lot of injuries there. I don't know. I don't know who is going to take over in the rotation there.
I don't think it was a bad pick because they addressed another position that they may have a need for in the future with injuries or something. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I don't really 100% know. I know a little about him, but I don't know everything about the type of player he is. I've seen some film, but
yeah. I mean, again, I didn't know who he was before the draft, but from what I've seen, he looks like a highlights guy. I mean, he had that huge hit on Jaden Daniels. That is about the only thing that pops up whenever you look up Dejon Anthony. But I mean, I didn't mind this pick. I think he's gonna. I mean, like I said with Cedric Johnson, that it's a difficult pick because he's not gonna play special teams. Dejon Anthony will probably start special teams. So even if I'm looking at the roster right now, saying Dax Hill officially moves to corner and does not play any, he's probably going to fit in as the safety 4 or 5, depending on where Tyson Anderson is. But, I mean, he'll play. I think Battle and Geno Stone are going to start. Von Bell will be right there. And then it's either going to be Dejon Anthony or Tyson Anderson.
So, and that's another topic we'll have to get into in one of the later episodes with the safety room. Like he just said, he thinks Von Bell is not going to start. I know there's some people that don't think that, which we'll get into that. It's a further episode. But
yeah.
So, yeah, I think it was a position that you feel safe to address because there's still a need a little bit because of injuries or, anything like that. But me personally, I just think more special teams is what he's going to be good for. So I honestly would probably go C- on that pick. And nothing really stands out to me. It's like, oh, this is amazing, but it's decent.
I think I go B- here. I think.
Yeah, it's like it's decent, but there's nothing that really stands out to me too much.
Yeah,
Matt Lee,
I'm gonna let you talk about. I probably got to get out of here at sometime soon. I don't know that much about Matt Lee. I just liked that they addressed interior offense.
So Matt Lee, I'm just gonna do a little bit of spiel here. Matt Lee, why I like Matt Lee. So
I might get out of here in the middle of your spiel.
Matt Lee, right here. As a center, we've got Ted Karras right now, but we don't really have a lot behind Ted Karras. I think Matt Lee is great as someone behind Ted Karras. He's got a lot of experience. He's a redshirt junior, Miami. So yeah, he's got a lot of experience. He didn't allow very many sacks. I don't know the exact number, but I think he's a great player. I think he's got a lot of experience. I think that's great to come in with a lot of experience. A lot of these players are more high upside. They don't have a ton of experience. So yeah, personally, I know we're gonna have to wrap this up. So that's all I'll say about Matt Lee. I know you don't know a ton about him, but personally, at this point in the draft, honestly, I'm thinking this is an A pick because what do they have behind Ted Karras? Not a lot. Ted Karras gets hurt. He's got a ton of experience. I think this is an A pick for him to be able to plug in.
I like it. I mean, again, I don't know much about him, but I've heard the reputation's good. He plays center. I'm hoping he can maybe switch to guard if need be. So it's like
and that's true. Guard too with Cordell Volson.
Yeah, I mean
there may be a
spot.
spot.
Been great, and
he may be able to take that spot
Kappa
too.
Could get injured, and I said when we were talking about the Mims pick, the offensive line depth is not there.
Exactly.
So I think you get him here
with his experience, able to maybe take a couple other positions too.
Yeah. So I think I would go B+ on this pick.
Yeah. So I think overall is a good pick. That's our recap of the Bengals draft. Tune in next time whenever we upload next for our next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we're gonna wrap that up here.
Yep.
See you guys on the next one.